Divine Providence has kept me. Sister Gleicy Rocha. Your hand has shaped me and formed me. Will you now return and destroy me? Please remember that you formed me like clay. Will you now return me to dust? This Bible verse could be an affirmation, but it is a question, or more, a questioning, or a cry of supplication. It is Job who, in the depth of his being, in the moment of greatest anguish and great suffering, cries out to God, "I am sick of life." This is how the text begins. This is how Job is. But perhaps we are asking ourselves, what can this tell me about Divine Providence? In the Bible, doesn't the Bible have a better text that portrays this God's providence? From the little knowledge I have of the person of Job, I am convinced that there is nothing better than him to help us understand and deepen the real meaning of trust in God. On Job felt suffering at every level of human life. Everything that he had and symbolized the divine blessings he lost. Overnight, Job no longer had his children, his possessions, and ultimately his health. He became not only economically poor, but above all, morally poor. For even his best friend and his own wife criticized him. However, and there is a however in Job's life, he is blameless. His posture in the face of misfortune differs from that expected by the accuser, in this case, Satan. Job, a man of faith, without protesting, gets up in the midst and his suffering and performs the traditional rituals of penance and mourning. And through a simple observation, he makes a profound profession of faith in God. Naked, I became out of my mother's womb, and naked I will return there. If we have received the good things from God, should we not also receive the bad things? And it is from the midst of the ashes where Job lives, a retreat of deep suffering, that the response of authentic faith springs forth. In the God who visits him and who says nothing, he only suffers together. We need to know God in this way, in intimacy, no matter how much we have or we have left or never had. Our life, like Job's, cannot be measured by how much possessions we have or by how intimate we are with God. After this, Job lived 140 years and saw his children and his children's children, the fourth generation. Then Job died, old and full of days. Not unlikely Job, with the only difference in years between them, Maria and Justina Schiaparoli, foundresses, the Benedictine Sisters of the Divine Providence, lived the same experience. With them, we too can learn the process and set our lives in trustful abandonment to God. They who belonged to a family which in the past was noble and rich, but which fell into poverty, living in a childhood like so many other children, but for the early loss of all their siblings and their mother, and later also their father. At a very young age, they were left alone in this world. And you may ask me, how did they manage to overcome so many losses? Surely, you would tell me, they lived in eternal bitterness and rebellion against God. And the answer is no. Contrary to all the evidence, Maria and Justina never let themselves be overwhelmed. But though an intimate and deep communication with God, the Provident Father, they dedicated their entire lives to welcoming and caring for those who, like them, had nothing, those who were robbed to the meaning of life. Only a deep and authentic experience of God's love can explain how, in the face of so much suffering and pain, a person can still trust and profess their faith to the Creator. And it is this experience which always sustained and animated the lives of Job, Mary, and Justina Schiaparoli that should sustain our lives. Only when we learn from Jesus to love God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind, and with all our strength, will our neighbors as ourselves will be able to trust fully in His Divine Providence, which is Jesus Himself, and profess with joy, without fantasy, you have granted me life and favor, and your providence has guarded my spirit.